coming back to Charlie.
Yes.
Okay, that's the second piece of memorabilia that you've brought with you today to the studio. Talk us through this picture here. This was our day, Jerome. Love always, Charlie.
Well, Charlie and I have always enjoyed a very an amazing relationship. Because I was always, when Charlie was first signed for Arsenal, because of his name, he was associated with the headline Champagne Charlie, right? And he was front page news, a bit like how George Best used to be in years gone by. And most of the rhetoric written about Charlie was a complete and utter fabrication of the truth. But he was a single guy, and he did like to go out and enjoy himself. But he was much more often than not respectful of his role as a professional footballer. But he lived his life to the full, and he enjoyed life. He still does. And he has no regrets about how his career developed and was. And as long as he's happy, like you're saying about what you're doing with players now, then we can all have opinions. Yeah, but if you wouldn't have done this, he could have done this, or he does this. It's about the player and the individual being happy with themselves.
For sure. Did Charlie fulfill his potential?
Well, that's a very good question. What does that question mean? I mean, he played for Arsenal, scored a number of goals, always played well against Spurs, scored against Spurs, obviously became a Highbury hero, played for Scotland, played in the World Cup for Scotland under Alex Ferguson, and was at the peak of his form. Unfortunately, got injured in the first game. I think it was against Denmark. Someone absolutely clattered him. So, you know, as a boy growing up in Glasgow, he played for Celtic, broke their goal scoring record. As a 19, 20-year-old, signed for Arsenal, became an absolute hero at one of the biggest clubs in football, played for Scotland, played in the World Cup.
So in a word, yes.
Well, it's like we say about Matt Le Tissier.
Yeah.
Matt will say he did fulfil his potential because of the success he had at Southampton. If Charlie would have gone to Liverpool or Man United, could it have been different? Maybe. Who knows? But he made the decision to sign for Arsenal. No regrets.
Sure. And this picture here.
Well, that picture, that's the first trophy that Arsenal won for many, many years.
What trophy is that?
That's the Littlewoods Cup or Carling Cup.
Okay.
And Charlie scored.
It looks a bit different now.
Yeah. And Charlie scored the goals at Wembley. And I remember going around to his flat in Highgate afterwards, where I actually did live for a while. Whilst I was moving homes, and we lived together for a while.
Did you and Charlie live together?
Yeah, that was.
What was that like?
And Binzer, Michael Conroy, he was at Leighton Orient at the time. Well, we had some memorable.
The three of you.
Yeah, we had some memorable days and nights. But Charlie is a character, right? And I'll never forget. It was quite funny actually. There was a time Don was the manager. That group of lads, before George became the manager, where I think 8 or 9 of the boys lost their licenses through
driver's licenses.
Yeah, through drinking and driving. And Don Howe, who was an incredible man, he knew how close I was to the boys, and he gave me the responsibility for a few weeks of picking up various players and taking them to the training ground.
So you were the chauffeur?
Basically, yeah. And
the agent.
But there's a funny end to it. I've turned up one day at the training ground, and the team weren't scoring goals. They couldn't score goals. Rixie was there, Tony Woodcock, Paul Mariner, Charlie, Brian. They had some very, very good players. And I dropped the players off, and Don said to me, "Jerome, I'd like you to stay today." So I said, "Why is that?" He said, I want you to watch what these boys do." So this was the session. He said, "I want you to stand behind the goal." This is at
the training ground.
At the training ground at London Coney.
The same place where it is now, or?
No, Watford are there now.
Oh, okay.
This is before the new training ground was built. He said, I want you to stand behind the goal, and your job is to get the balls that go over the bar and kick them back onto the pitch. I thought, oh, all right. I went, Wixie. He went, no. He said, just listen to what Don says. And this was the drill, okay? Don stayed on the centre of the circle, right? There's no one in the goal, right? So he lined all the players up. He said, I'm going to pass the ball and I'm going to go left foot right. He said, and all you've got to do is hit the target, okay? And the only play, honestly, that balls were going over the bar, past the post. The only one who hit the target consistently was Charlie. Anyway, cut a long story short, they hadn't scored for about 4, 5, 6 games. And I think they played Liverpool on the Saturday. I think they won 4-1. and I remember going to that game thinking, if only these fans would have seen the training session that Don put on during the week, because they couldn't hit the target. They just couldn't hit the target. But in the training session, with no one in the goal, it was like it was like watching people in the park that couldn't play football. But they went, but because they were professionals, and obviously top professionals on that particular, and then thereafter they went on a good run. But it was different. The times were different then. The players were much more, sociable. Not as much as the Liverpool lads who used to go out, most nights of the week, but they used to win everything every year and play five-a-side in training. But there was great camaraderie at that time. I'm sure there is now, but it's different now. It's different now because you've got so many players from all different walks of life from all over the world. Whereas really going back maybe 15 years, it was Scottish, Irish, English, Welsh, Northern Irish, and it was different.
Do you think that the players would be able to get away with it now with that drinking culture that was back then in terms of the levels?
I won't say it was a drinking culture, but it was the social, all the boys would go out on a, I think it was called the Tuesday Club. They used to go out on a Tuesday because they knew they were having Wednesday off. And
if you were a player who didn't want to be part of that,
you were ridiculed and you weren't very popular. So there was quite a lot of stories to be told from that. But I sort of get that. I think that's good. I'm not saying go like silly and get absolutely hammered and you don't know where you are. But I think to go out collectively is good. I remember Arsenal used to bring in. They used to go bowling. I didn't go drinking together. They used to go bowling together to bring in
team bonding.
For team bonding.
Slightly different approach.
A slightly different approach, but that was how it was.
So you were the chauffeur for the players for a short period, picking them up and taking them home to the Tuesday night.
No.
Or taking them home from the Tuesday night club.
Well, occasionally.
Right. Okay. And I wanted to ask: do you have any specific or funny stories that stand out from your adventures?
Many stories, but certainly one in particular.
Are you happy to share that with us?
I think so. God rest his soul. It was Tommy Caton. Tommy Caton was a very lovely, big guy and a very, very good player. But he fundamentally joined Arsenal at the wrong time. He was the right player at the wrong club at the wrong time. And things didn't quite work out as everyone would have wanted them to, and none more so than for Tommy. So Tommy, he liked to have a pint or two, and we used to go to a place called the Orange Tree.
Okay.
Where the
Tosridge.
Yeah, where the landlord used to give me the keys to lock up. Right. This was not a night before a training session. It was either a Saturday night after a game, or a Tuesday night before the boys had the day off on Wednesday. Anyway,
were you an agent of any of these players at the time?
Yeah. But Tommy was just a top.
So you're supporting this behaviour?
I wouldn't say I was supporting. No, I was protecting the behaviour because I used to have eyes and ears around to make sure no one was going to get into too much trouble. Anyway, this particular Saturday, Tommy had been left out of the team. And there was about 5 or 6 of us went to the Orange Street after. I think Arsenal won the game 3-0. I won't mention all the players that were there, but Charlie was one, Tommy was one, Rixie, Kenny, I think Viv Anderson might have been there. Anyway, Charlie says to me about 8 o'clock, and it was one of those nights that was like, when I say freezing cold, the pond at the Orange Street was completely iced over, right? Completely iced over. Anyway, Charlie said to me, he said, go up and ask Tommy how he is. So I said, well, why am I going to do that? I said, I know, like, we've won. I said, but he wasn't playing. He went, he'll be all right. Anyway, so I've gone
Charlie stitched him up.
No, Charlie
stitched you up. My bad.
So I've gone up to Tommy. He's had a few. I said, Tommy, he said, like, I said, you'll get back in the team soon. Like, don't worry. Anyway, he's got me by the throat. He's put me up against the wall, and I thought I was going to die. He was a big, strong boy. And then he put me down. Anyway, then he started laughing. He said, Jerome, I love you and all that. Anyway, we carried on there for the next few hours. Then all of a sudden it's like midnight. Okay? And the boys, I think Viv had left, but the rest of the boys were there. So Tommy, he goes in his Manchester accent, I could walk on water. So Charlie's gone, well, come on then, let's go outside, let's see you walk on water. And I
take it they had a few drinks at this point.
1 or 2, yeah. Been in there for a few hours. Anyway, so we go, there's no members of the public there, they've all gone home. I can walk on water. So Charlie goes, well, come on then, let's show us. Anyway.
What a wind up, Charlie.
He starts walking on this pond. All of a sudden, he's falling in. Now I'm the only
one. Cracked
open.
open.
Oh, it's cracked open. So I'm the only one who's, I might have had a couple of drinks, but I know exactly what's going on. Now I'm realising there's something going. This is serious, and the boys are laughing, and I don't think Tommy really understood what was going on. Anyway, the end of the story was, between us, we managed to get him out of the. But he was literally up to his head. We got him out.
Thank God you were there.
Basically, yeah. And he said, "Look at me!" He was absolutely, obviously soaked to the skin. So I said, "Well, what?" He said, "Well, He phoned up his. There's a funny end to this story." So he phoned up his wife, and his wife comes to the Orange Street, and Tommy's basically taken all his clothes off because he's soaked through to the skin. So he gets into the car. He's absolutely stark naked, right? And somehow I remember, because I started laughing, he put his seatbelt on. Anyway, so his wife drives him home. But the end of the story was they had a babysitter in the house, right? And when they opened the door, Tommy's gone in, absolutely stark, and she started screaming at me and ran out of the house. And unfortunately, they never got the same babysitter again. But he honestly, he was such a lovely big guy. He was a terrible loss, terrible loss. And his mum and dad were lovely people. He used to go to all the away games and home games. But that was quite a memorable one of many that stand out. Yeah.
We don't have time for all of them today, but we'll catch up with you on those ones.
There'll be others
moving forward.
Yeah.
God rest his soul. Bit of a quick fire round.
Yes, sir.
Before we come to Righty.
Yeah.
Best friend in football.
Wow. Best friend in football. Well, players wise, I'd have to say Charlie. But it's been great because I still do stay in contact with quite a number of the boys, even though they might have stopped playing. I bumped into Dave Seaman a couple of weeks ago, and he gave me a big hug and he went, with his Yorkshire accent, Jerome, he said, I left Arsenal 20 years ago. He got that. So I said, so that So we've known each other literally for nearly 40 years.
Oh.
And then we had a laugh about the story, how he signed for Arsenal and not Man United, and which is not necessarily in the public domain. That'll be for another day. And he said it was the best years of his life.
Yeah.
Won 9 trophies, 75 caps for England. There's a funny story with Dave Stevens.
We'll have to come back because this is supposed to be quickfire round. I mean,
when I saw Tony Adams on Strictly last year, to think of Tony did something as brave as that.
Yeah.
And he was brilliant, by the way.
Yeah, he was excellent.
Just shows how far the boys have grown as men.
Sure. Tony's done some great things.
Done some. He's done some fantastic. With his charity,
he's helped a lot of people.
A lot of people.
Incredible. Yeah.
So all credit to Tony Adams.
So, like I say, quick fire round. Final answer: best friend in football.
I'd have to say Charlie.
Uncle Charlie. Favorite ever client.
Wow. Favorite ever client. I'd probably say Rocky. I'd probably say Rocky because he was just a great guy. Great guy.
If you could speak,
it's virtually impossible between Rocky, Charlie, Matt Letizia, Tony Adams, David Hurst, Ian Walker, looked after from 15, 16 years of age. The list is. David Hurst, for example.
This is quick fire round. I want to ask you a question. Favorite ever client? Confirmed. Rocky.
It's a difficult question.
If you could speak to Rocky now, what would you say?
Oh wow! Don't get all emotional now. Well, I do believe that if Rocky would have been alive. We talked, to be honest. He would have become literally my right hand man in business, and we'd have been incredibly successful together.
Well, what would you say to him? No.
What would I say to him? I would say to him, "Thank you for being you. Just thank you for Thank you for being you. Thank you for creating such a special place during your short time on this earth. Wonderful family, and thank you for being you."
Right. That's beautiful. What are you most proud of from your career within the game of football?
I don't know if there's anything I can say that I'm most proud of, because there's so many things. Do you mean things that I effected and made happen?
It's an open question for you to interpret.
I'm incredibly proud of what you've achieved. None more so than when you're at Torquay United and you joined there in the January. They were bottom of the table. I think you had 19 or 20 games left. I remember Kevin Pressman saying, "Jerome, can Miles play right side of centre half?" Mate, I said, "Yeah."
Kevin Nicholson.
He said, "This is our last signing," and culminated in the last game of the season, which you needed to win to stay in the league, and in front of a packed Plainmoor, which they probably could have sold out 5 times over. Miles Anderson pops up from the back on 2 occasions and scores both goals that kept Torquay United in the league. So that was as a dad, that's an incredible.
That's probably my proud moment. Okay, what about your?
From a personal point of view, I think bringing Dennis Bergkamp to England, because I felt that I knew at the time that would not only change the history of Arsenal Football Club, which it undoubtedly did, but I believed it would change the whole image and perception of the Premier League, which I believe it did.
That brought me to my next question, which was your favourite transfer, or the transfer you're most proud of, if it's that of Dennis Bergkamp.
I think,
or top 3.
I think Ian Wright from Crystal Palace to Arsenal.
And there's a whole story behind how that happened, which we're not going to go into just right now. But
Paolo Di Canio helping that transaction, both to Sheffield Wednesday and then to West Ham.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, Emmanuel Petit to Barcelona. That was an incredibly difficult transfer. I mean, there's so many.
Favorite one?
I don't know if they're a favorite one. Well, probably Ian Wright from Crystal Palace to Arsenal, because I knew what he was going to do at Arsenal,
and he did it.
and he did it. But I knew he was, sometimes you I say I knew. You don't really know, but I believe.
Deeply.
I remember standing in the middle of the Highbury on the pitch. The mural was up at the North Bank end. George was playing golf on a press day. He wasn't even there. And I remember we stood on the middle of the centre circle, and I said, Ian, I think, and he's put this in one of his autobiographies, if you do what I know you can do here, you will become an absolute legend. And to his credit, that's what he did.
The rest is history,
the
as
rest
they
is
say.
History, yeah.
Incredible. Now, conversely, most difficult client.
Oh, I don't want to get into that one. Most difficult client. Well, people have different characters, don't they? Different personalities. And there wasn't necessarily the support around that you offer now. It was more of knowing your client and knowing his personality and dealing with it the best way that you could. And there was some difficult moments with different people, but if you believed in them enough, you knew that ultimately they would come back to ground zero. And there's been loads of situations where I know maybe a difference of opinion, with responses like, "Well, why you don't know what you're talking about," or "Why?"
Any that stand out?
Well, I used to say to Righty, he had a thing about cars, and there was a thing for a while at the training ground. If he had that car, I had to have this car, and he always used to ask me about things before he actually did them. Could he afford it? This, that, and that. Anyway, the one time he didn't was he bought this car. I can't remember if it was a Ferrari or Maserati. And he's come to the office. I said, "What's that?" "Oh, I just bought this." I said, I can't remember if it was black or red. I can't remember. I said, "Do you know how long you'll have that car for?" He said, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" I said, "In a week's time, you'll say to me, I don't like the colour, or I don't like the colour of the seats."
What happened?
And then you'll take it back and lose 30, 40 grand in a week. What happened was he wrapped the car around a tree. I think the first week or 2 weeks that he had it. So that was the end of that car.
Yeah.
But when he was about 40, because I used to say to him, "Ian, the time to buy these type of cars is when you can go bang, right? Maybe when you finish playing, you can pay for the car, right? And it's yours." Yeah, but the boys in the car park, and I said, "What you worry about what cars people are driving? You've got a lovely car." But I remember that he was around about 40, and he phoned me up one day. He went, "Jay," he said, "thank you." I said, "What do you mean? For what?" He said, "I now understand what you meant when you were talking to me about cars." So he got it.
How long did it take? At what age did you first mention it? So how many years did it take?
I don't know.
For it to sink
10,
in.
12 years. And that's
amazing that he actually remembered.
Yeah, he remembered, yeah. No, he's very, 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 very clued in. Going back to your other question, I would say David Dean also is a very, very, a very dear friend in the football world. Yeah. We did an awful lot together for the benefit of Arsenal Football Club, which is why I got that nickname for about 25 years, Mr. Arsenal.
Oh, I thought it was Arsenal Mafia.
No, well, that was from another manager. But that you asked me what I mean, being an Arsenal fan, and red and white to my core, I think having that nickname, Mr. Arsenal, for so many years, I'm pretty proud of that. But again, I didn't think of that because it was about me. I don't, you know me, I don't often ever put myself. It's always the boys that come first.
But that was, I suppose, what you made your career out, a bit similar to the work that I do in terms of you're looking at what's best for the
players.
For the player.
Yeah.
Are they going to win it this year?
I think what Mikel's done is, and Edu, and obviously the people.
Another ex-client of yours.
Yeah, it is absolutely to be appreciated and recognised, because it is truly amazing.
Yeah,
where they're taking the club to, and if they weren't up against such a formidable club, certainly manager, and all the great players they've got, they might have won it in the last 2 or 3 years.
For sure. They're having similar difficulties to what Liverpool had. Liverpool, I think, once they didn't win the league, they got 99 points.
100 points,
didn't win the league.
So, again, but you play the game. If you can keep your key, I mean, they're all key players, but the ones that make a difference, from the goalie to the defenders to the strikers, if you've got Odegaard, the captain, if you can keep your main players fit for the season, they've got a great chance.
Yeah.
But if you look at the deals that other clubs have done this summer, I mean, West Ham have done very well. Spurs, I think, have signed a very, very good player in Dominic Solanke, who I must say, I thought gave Gabriel and Saliba their toughest game last year.
I think we went to that game together.
He played up front on his own, at the Emirates. I thought he was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And obviously playing, although Bournemouth have got good players as well.
Yeah, good.
So it'd be a different type of pressure for him at Spurs. But I think Newcastle, Aston Villa have made some great signings.
Who's your top 4 for this season?
My top 4 obviously be Man City, in no particular order. Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. It obviously will depend on how their pre-season's gone and how the players having so many of them working for Klopp for so many years. But I think they'll be there or thereabouts. Yeah. And then it's a toss-up. I mean Chelsea as well. Yeah. I mean they've made some amazing signings.
They've got some incredible players.
So I top 4 I think Arsenal, Man City. You can never say definitely, 99%. Yeah. And then you've got Liverpool, you've got Villa, you've got Chelsea, Tottenham.
I'm asking you for your top 4.
You've
got to make a decision.
And also Man United, I think. Man United could come good this year.
Okay, this is you've got to make a decision.
All right, I'm going to go Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, Aston Villa.
Wow, Villa in there with Ollie Watkins. Do they hold on to Ollie Watkins in the summer transfer?
Oh yeah. But we knew that Emery was a great coach at a great club at the wrong time.
When he came to Arsenal. Very difficult to take over from,
Because when he was Arsenal manager, the club was obviously in a bit of turmoil because they had difficult players in the group at the time, and he wasn't giving any help in getting them out of the club.
So he was obviously the first one in the transitory phase after Arsene Wenger, and had all that stuff to deal with, and the issue of the dynamics within the dressing room, the different egos, the players.
The only thing with Unai I would say is you can be playing for one of his teams. We had it a few times at Arsenal. When we went to Anfield one night and scored 4 goals and got beat 5-4
in the Carling Cup.
In a Carling Cup. He just plays such expansive attacking football that you're never out of a game playing against an Unai Emery team. They can be 2 up, you can win the game 3-2. You can be 2 up, they can win the game 3-2.
For sure.
He won't ever change that. But I think Villa definitely are on the right path.
Oh, for sure. A couple more questions for you, and it's supposed to be quick fire round. This will be an interesting one for agents. Any deal that you were involved in that you actually got kind of screwed over in?
Yeah, there was a couple.
Any that you can?
No, and absolutely nothing, totally out of my control. One was with a manager that's basically said to a player, if you want to come to this club, you got to do it with him.
With you or with other?
No, with another agent.
But you represented the player at the time?
Yep. And I remember just saying to the player, it's a great club. Do you want to go there? Yeah, do it. Now, other agents might not have acted like that.
Yeah. What happened with your representation with the player then?
I ripped it up.
So he understood that in order to go there, he essentially had to leave you as his agent.
The other manager made it very clear that if he wanted to come to this club, he had to do it through this person. And I don't think you could do that today. But look, they're the sorts of, fortunately, in nearly 40 years, that might have happened to me once. But it did happen.
But I asked you before, earlier in the show, what differentiates you from other agents, and I think something like that is actually key, because again, you've shown that your interests, or the most important thing, is the best interest of the player. So you're actually prepared to step aside.
I think the players that reached the top of their careers will always testify to the fact that, because there was many times, Tony Adams could have gone anywhere in the world. David Seaman could have gone anywhere in the world. Ian Wright could have gone anywhere in the world. Other players the same, and they could have earned probably or possibly more money elsewhere. Yeah. But and so could I as the agent. But it was always about, are you happy in this environment? And if they were, I would try and maximise that situation at that football club, whether it was Arsenal, Tottenham, Chelsea, wherever.
Yeah.
As opposed to, unfortunately, some agents have this habit of trying to get their players to move every couple of years to make more money. Yeah. I mean, why? If the player's happy, then stay. You sign a contract. Both clubs have committed to that contract. And okay, some marriages don't last, but if they don't last, at least handle it in a way that is respectful to both parties. Yeah. I always believed in that.
For sure. Biggest struggles or biggest struggle over the 40-year career to date within the football industry?
What, for me personally?
Yeah.
Health. Being basically...
Why health?
Because I was literally... And
obviously I saw it.
We all know this. Yeah. I was literally on the phone 7 days a week, 365 days a year, from the minute I opened my eyes to the minute I went to sleep. So after so many years, that did become, a bit of a struggle, because you never get a phone call where someone's... how often do you get a phone call with good news? It's always, this has happened, that's happened, we need that sorted, this has got to be done, that's got... It was never ending. But obviously for most of the time, I enjoyed it and I could deal with it. But the stresses and the pressures I put on myself, because I wanted to do it right, always.
Yeah.
The players came first, and whatever I needed to do to make sure they were okay, I had to do.
Yeah. What would you have done differently? Because I'm, of course, similar to yourself, player comes first, but the one thing that comes first in order for me to facilitate that the player comes first is my health. So, for example, my first priority is to take care of my physical, mental, emotional health.
Okay.
And then I'm in a position to be able to...
Well, things maybe are different now. I couldn't have done that.
So you were like up and out. It wasn't like get up.
I sometimes went to 4 or 5 different countries in a week. Because I always wanted to be at home for you and Holly and Mum, whether it's birthdays, anniversaries, you playing football, Holly singing or whatever. So I tried to find a way of being a good husband and a good dad, as well as being the best agent that I possibly could. And I think for the most part, I was able to do that.
For sure. No, I can vouch for that. But with regards to your health, there's no point you being able to do this, that, and the other if you didn't have your health. So is that, looking back, something that,
well, your health is your health, isn't it? It's the saying, your health is your wealth.
Yeah.
And that is true, because none of us know how long we're going to be here.
That's the thing.
But when you're in it,
yeah,
at that moment, other things often come first.
Yeah. There's always something happening, isn't there? There's
always
the next thing and the next thing.
And to be the best at what you do, you've got to put the client, or I always put the client first.
Yeah, of course. But you've also got to put your health first, so that
I know that
you can operate for the client.
That's easier said than done.
Yeah.
I want to take a moment to acknowledge and stress the importance of mental health and taking care of one's mental health, specifically in professional sports. If you are someone who's currently struggling with your mental health and even your performance, then head over to my website, www.unleashtheplayer.com, for more information on how I can help you to elevate your mental health and take your performance to the next level.
Last few questions, then we're going to come to Wrighty before we close. What advice would you give for young aspiring agents coming through today?
Become a golfer. What advice would I give? I think that's a very, very interesting question, because what young agents are having to deal with today that I didn't have to deal with, and people of my generation didn't have to deal with until maybe the last 10 years, is the fact that the mums and dads of the players have now become much, much more actively involved in their families' careers because of the money that's involved. Now, I always believe, as a parent, the most important thing is do your best you can as a parent by being a parent. Now, in my mind, that doesn't mean managing your kid's career because you don't have the experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? You just want to go and enjoy watching your son or daughter play professional sport, enjoy the time that they've got to deliver on that, and allow experts and people that understand what they're dealing with to look after their contractual career.
So to come back to that question, perhaps you can condense the answer into a couple of sentences. Your advice for any agents, is it to take care of that part that you're speaking, to manage the parents, or what would be?
No. It's not managing the parents. Your main job is to manage the player, to give him every opportunity of maximising his ability, Monday to Friday, and going out on a Saturday and fulfilling his potential.
And how do they do that to the best of their ability as an agent?
Well, only if they're allowed to. Only if they're allowed to. And a young aspiring agent cannot have. This is not about going to university, going to college, getting a business management degree. This is about people. It's a people's business.
So what does one need to be an excellent agent?
You need to understand the industry. You absolutely have to put the player first at all times. Honesty. And know that you have the trust of that individual totally. Otherwise, you can't do your job properly.
Yeah.
And if you think at any given time they're either not listening or he's a bit airy-fairy, walk away.
Better to walk away.
Better walk away.
Any advice, what guidance would you give for the parents of the players?
Well, similar to what I've just said. Please enjoy your son's or daughter's professional career. Go to the games. Travel nicely. Take in the moment and enjoy everything that you can see on a Saturday, Monday night, Wednesday night, whatever. And choose someone to look after your son or daughter's professional career. And speak to them all the time, ask them whatever questions you need answering, but allow them to do their job.
Yeah. Some great advice there. That will hopefully allow them to unleash their full potential.
Absolutely.
For sure. Any advice for managers?
That's a very interesting question, because obviously over the years I've been very privileged to have got close to and known some of the greatest managers of all time, and they all have their different idiosyncrasies and their own personalities. But I think in the modern game, this is just my opinion, it's very, very important for managers to be calm, because that sends out the message to the players that they can literally go out, express themselves in the knowledge that if they make a mistake, and everyone makes mistakes, if a goalkeeper makes a mistake, the ball invariably ends up in the back of the net. If a centre-half misses a header, the centre-forward scores. If the only striker the only player on the pitch that probably has more chances is a striker, because if they miss one chance, they might get another one. So all players make mistakes, and managers know that whatever team they pick on a Saturday afternoon, they're going to make mistakes.
For sure.
So still always encourage the players to be themselves. You pick the team, you've done your team talk, you've done your bit the 10 minutes before the boys go out on the pitch. It's done. It's done.
Sounds like you've been talking to me.
No, but that's what I think. Now, there'd be other managers that would, we see them. Some of them run up and down the touchline, screaming at but you often think, if the right wing is getting slaughtered, you wouldn't want to be you want to touch the ball. What is the point in screaming at the players? They're on the pitch because they're good enough to be on the pitch, and you've chosen them to be on the pitch. So always encourage them, because they're going to make mistakes. They're going to make mistakes.
For sure. Part of the game, if mistakes weren't made, no goals would be scored, right?
But it's the way that you recover from making a mistake. And if you've got a manager that's screaming at you there's every chance you're going to make another mistake.
Yeah.
So encouragement and calmness is what I respect, and I enjoy seeing managers that are like that.
For sure.
I know it's emotional, and whether Jurgen Klopp, even Guardiola sometimes, Mikel Arteta, they show emotions, but you don't really often see them screaming at the players.
For sure. Well,
whatever's going on in the dressing room, that might be something totally different, and that's private. But on the pitch, whether it's a first half or second half, I think it's imperative for a manager to stay, even under all the pressure they're under, to try and stay as calm as possible, and to encourage the players, to allow them to go out and express themselves in the best possible way.
For sure. I mean, my role model in that respect, growing up, the manager I looked up to was always obviously Arsene Wenger.
Yeah.
And he was always someone that embodied that calmness, that composure.
And Arsene didn't ever like confrontation. He said what he had to say, and then he trusted the players to go out and do what he expected them, what he thought and expected they were going to do, and invariably that's exactly what they did do.
He always protected the players.
Always protected the players. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting. And finally, what guidance or expert advice would you give to any players out there today?
I would say this. If you have been at whatever level you're playing, okay, obviously the higher up you are, the more rewards you get financially and materialistically. But I've also seen, with some of the clubs you've played for, what it means to the community, right? The football team is imperative for the happiness and the soulfulness of the community, which we lose sometimes. So I think for a player, whatever level you are at, try, number one, you got to enjoy it. Number two, whilst you're playing, number one, you never know who's watching. And number two, you have to try and maximise your God-given talent that you've been born with. But to get to that level, it's not just about the talent.
Yeah.
It's about the mind. And that's why what you're doing will prove to be so important and of immeasurable significance if players that have that opportunity really want to go to the next level and the next level.
Yeah, for sure. I concur actually on that point. I want to say this quickly. Speaking about the mind and the character of the human being, I had a meeting with one of the coaches of one of the players that I worked with last season who moved up a division. And funny enough, this coach and myself, we'd played together as well as the player that I'd worked with. And when giving a reference to the team that the player has now gone to, which is a league team, this coach said that it was actually, we all know obviously what a great player he is, but it was actually the way that he conducted himself, the way that he behaved, and the human being that he showed himself to be. The coach actually said to me, he didn't know that this player actually had that level of maturity and growth within him. And, you know, I'm not going to say that's down to all the work that we did, but we focused a lot on that and going through difficult moments, how he could still be part of the team if he wasn't playing, or bring value or help and encourage others.
And he did.
And he did. He really did. And that was his major growth, his major turning point in his whole career, was to show those levels of maturity and to be part of a team, to show that character, even in what was actually a really difficult moment for him last season. And he's back in the league now.
Brilliant.
And wish him the best of luck. But just on what you were saying,
it's true. And if you're a player and you're watching this and you're listening to this, honestly, the years go by incredibly quickly. You got one chance.
Yeah.
Don't let it pass you by. Surround yourself with good people, the right people that are only there to help and support you.
Yeah, 100%. Beautiful. Some really wise words of wisdom there. Thank you for that.
It's the truth.
And I'm sure that some of the listeners are going to...
I hope so.
Really appreciate that
I
as well.
hope so.
Take that with them. Ian Wright.
Righty,
My godfather.
Yeah.
One of your closest friends.
Yep.
Tell us a bit about Ian Wright and your relationship with Wrighty.
Well, we go back to the very first time that we met, and that I can remember it like yesterday. I don't even want to think how many years ago that was. It was at the Selfridge Hotel in London, and he walked in with his big boots on, and from the first time that I met Ian, he really was a unique character. He wanted it so badly, it was infectious. But it wasn't an act. He meant it. And that came about because he'd been small. He suffered from asthma. He'd been rejected by many, many clubs. So he got his first professional contract, I think, when he was 23 or 24 at Crystal Palace with Steve Coppell. And he wasn't going to let it pass him by, because he'd had all the rejections. He'd had you're too small, you got asthma, you this, you that. And he's gone, well, I'm going to show you. And he did it. And he did it where it mattered most, on the pitch, consistently. And I was very privileged to help him, along with obviously team members within the organisation, to achieve so much. But none of that would have happened without him delivering on the pitch. And he goes back to one of the questions you asked me. He had the opportunity late in life. So he maybe appreciated that or understood that more than the kids that have been in academies and they come through, then they either get a contract or they get rejected, and that's often the end of their careers, unfortunately.
That's where I come in to help them to
exactly.
come back from that.
Because I remember Glenn Hoddle saying to me years ago, which is why he started his own academy with Rixie, which was a great idea, to help give players that have been rejected early another chance to to come back, because so many are discarded. You think,
Well, you only got to look at, stories, Harry Kane's story,
Harry Kane.
the Declan Rice story. So many stories out there.
Well, you can look at Kevin De Bruyne,
right? Lukaku. All these stories out there.
It's just incredible.
Each player has their own.
Each player has their own. But the players that have been discarded, some of the names we just mentioned, have gone on to greatness by then going to the right environment with the right coach and maximising their talent. But Wrighty was he was a one-off, and he incredibly competitive, hated losing, and always wanted to score more goals than anybody else. And for a long time, he did that.
How would you describe your relationship? What role did you play?
Oh, it was a mixture of everything.
Yeah.
Even to the extent it was he didn't know how to shave, and we did that one day.
Coming back to the father figure role.
Yeah, the father figure, and he had some very difficult moments in his life, which needed managing, and I believe I was always there at the most difficult times in his life to help. It's great being there when someone's scoring goals in the FA Cup final or playing for England and scoring at Wembley, but it's the times when they got some demons going on that they need proper help, and no question that I believe I was always there for.
Family. The shirt. Talk to us about the shirt. To Jerome, much love always, right 8.
That was the shirt, I believe, that Ian wore when he broke the Arsenal goal scoring record. That was a
179.
179. That was an incredibly memorable day, not because of the shirt, and if I can share that with you, I will do so. I was never one out front. I was always in the background because I only wanted the players to get the adulation and the credit and everything else. Anyway,
I wonder where I picked that up from then.
Anyway, he breaks the Arsenal goal scoring record, and at Highbury there used to be a big press room, and on this particular occasion, Ian said, "I want you to come up with me to the press room." I went, okay. So we went into this press room, and I stood right at the back of the room, and there was literally, the room was packed. I'm not going to exaggerate. There must have been 200, 250 people in there, in a small, not a big room. And he's got the ball under his arm.
That he scored the hat-trick with.
He scored the hat-trick with. And people were very, congratulatory, and Ian, unbelievable achievement, to be Arsenal's leading goal scorer is an incredible achievement. And then someone said, who do you put that down to? Right? And I was just standing there, and he went, "You see that guy at the back of the room? Jerome. He has been unbelievable for me. He's helped me in every facet of my life." And he threw the ball. He threw the ball at me, which I caught, which I've still got.
Where's the ball?
I can't tell people where the ball is. Maybe that's for another show. And it's still got the mud on it.
So you haven't washed it then? It looks like the shirt hasn't been washed either.
No, and I've got the ball. And I think as a memory, that is a memory that I'll because that's history. Arsenal Football Club. Arsenal at the time, Arsenal's leading ever, greatest ever goal scorer. And he played for many of those years. Yeah, the last couple of years, obviously, with Dennis and Anelka and great players. But for a few years, we didn't have those great players playing. And he literally not carried the team, but he was an incredible player for Arsenal. And deserves all the credit and all the plaudits that he gets from Arsenal fans to this day. But I think that moment with the ball, I often think about that. I haven't really shared that with anybody before.
A proud moment. That's one of your proud moments.
Very, very proud moment, yeah. Very proud moment.
That's incredible with Wrighty, and that he actually was able to recognise how important the role that you played was in him.
At that moment.
You know, and you doing those things that you spoke about so that he was able to go on the pitch and essentially unleash.
Yeah.
You know, you almost holding the space for him to be able to unleash his unlock his full potential.
Speak to Wrighty every single day because he still used to live in South London, so he had that journey around that M25, which was a nightmare for him. So we invariably spoke every morning on the way to training, and often on the way after training. He had an incredible part of my life.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you're eager to tell us the story of the transfer, how you made that, how you actually helped to make that happen, which we'll discuss, I think, on another episode.
Yes. That's a fascinating story.
Fascinating story, I'm sure. And I think our listeners would love to hear that.
We'll leave that one.
How's your relationship now?
We've had some moments, but we always get through them.
Yeah.
And when we see each other, love you, bro, love you. Yep. Because, you know, people's situations change.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the first lady he was married to has passed away. Debbie, she was a lovely lady.
Yeah.
He has subsequently, obviously, married again and has a beautiful family, and his life is there now. He's done incredibly well on television. Adverts that we started doing with him years and years ago, he carried on doing that, and he is literally one of those larger than life characters. Great golfer.
He's loved on television, isn't he? Everyone loves him.
Well, yeah, because he doesn't leave anything up. He doesn't leave anything behind the microphone, does he?
No, for sure. He's very real, very authentic.
Very authentic, and he's done absolutely. I always said to him when he stopped playing football, I said, "You never have to worry about, you know, what you're going to do because you'll have a job in the media forever."
Yeah, incredible.
And thankfully, you know, in his 60th, I think he's just past 60 now. He's just finished how many years with the BBC?
I'm not sure.
Many years. He's done his last match of the day, but he'll be doing England matches. He'll be doing other things.
Yeah.
I know he does quite a lot of work with companies based overseas.
Yeah.
And he's brilliant.
Yeah. Incredible personality.
Incredible.
And sounds like you guys obviously went through a lot.
Yeah.
And the love will always be there.
Absolutely.
Oh, for sure. Amazing. So we're getting to the end of the episode. Unfortunately, I'm sure you've got a lot more to say, a lot more incredible stories to share with us, and we'd love to hear them. So to end the show, I want to leave you with a couple of things. The first thing, can you finish this sentence? So, I love football because...
I love football because it's absolutely in my blood.
And?
Yeah. I love football because...
I think that's the shortest that you've kept.
I love football because, okay, I love football. It's in my blood. It's been my way of life literally since my dad took me to Arsenal when I was 4 years of age. Yeah. So, you know, of course I'll always be an incredible Gooner and Arsenal fan, but I actually really, I watch football now and I look at the tactics and I look at opposition players. I'm very happy to respect and acknowledge the brilliance of other players playing for other teams apart from Arsenal, and other managers, of course, as well. Because the art of being successful, particularly in the Premier League in the modern game, I mean, it's gone up immeasurably. You've got to be brilliant in so many different ways. And again, that's where what you're doing, I think, can help the players that are going to get there and stay there.
For sure.
I wish you all the best with what you're doing.
Thanks very much, Ted. I appreciate that. And finally, who would you next like to see on the show?
Who would I next like to see on the show? I think Charlie would be great.
Yeah.
I think if Wrighty would agree to do it, he'd be great. I think all, if not all or most of the people that I've mentioned today, those that are still with us, I think Dave Seaman would be brilliant.
Yeah.
There's so many.
I've got to push you for one.
I can't give you one. I personality-wise, I'd have to say Charlie.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Okay. Uncle Charlie will be getting a call.
Let's see.
All right, fantastic. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed.
No, it's been very, very enjoyable. Very well, it's been very real, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
I had no idea what you were going to talk to me about, and that's why it is real. Yeah. So, everything I've spoken about is from the heart, and hopefully, whoever's going to watch this will enjoy it. And if you want to learn something from it or take some things from it, then hopefully they will.
Yeah. Thanks so much for being here, Dad,
Pleasure.
and sharing your incredible experience and knowledge and wisdom with us. And I'm sure it's going to, sure the listeners are going to really enjoy the episode, listening to the things that you've had to say, your stories, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of learning taken from it as well. So thanks again.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thanks for watching. It's been great having you here with us. Remember to like, follow and subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.